So this is going to be the first clip we're going to go through. So a lot of the things is we have, right, layoff statistics where people think, are the layoff statistics real, right? And I'm going to focus on America, but this really applies globally, right? We have all these layoff statistics that come up, how many people are unemployed. And when you look around in daily life, let me just tell you, in London, for example, I look around in daily life and I see weird trends. There's loads of people living on government benefits of all demographics, right? Not just one demographic. I know a lot of people think about migrants coming to the West and getting free handouts. There's even white British people who are living on benefits. And I see so many people out and about during the day. I can't imagine they're all self-employed or they're all working odd hours, working the night shift. So they've got time during the day to spend time with their kids or just walking around, hanging about. There's so many people hanging about during the day where I'm just very suspicious. How many people are actually getting government handouts? How many people are unemployed and just living paycheck to paycheck or just doing whatever they want, living on savings? And I think there is a large proportion of people who are unemployed compared to what the statistics say. Now, what we're going to do is look through this particular instance where in America, the BLS, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, were submitting monthly job numbers. How many people are unemployed? How many people are in the workforce? All these type of things. How well is the economy doing, right? And this is what is an indication for investors. Should they be investing more in the retail sector based on many people being employed, or if less people are being employed, maybe they need to invest in safer investments. And the thing is, all the statistics are rigged, right? We know the inflation statistics could be rigged. I'll just say could be rigged. So we know the unemployment numbers could be rigged, because if we look at the real statistics of how bad the economy is, of course, that will depress all the investment numbers, right? And you have more economic instability. So there's an incentive for governments to make things look better than they are, right? Whether it's for political reasons or it's to maintain the fake economic stability that we don't actually have, with the money becoming worthless, more and more people become unemployed or dropping out the labor force in one way, shape or form. So that's kind of interesting to think about. Now we're going to look at this brief clip here.
Late last week, President Trump fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics after they released their quarterly jobs report. The BLS, which is primarily responsible for collecting and presenting job market data, presented a report that was less than flattering about the current state of the economy for average workers. In response, the president claimed that he had issues with the economic numbers for a long time, and that he believed the recent report was phony. Now, hot take alert, but he is most likely absolutely right, just not in the way that he thinks. The July report estimated that the economy had added an extra 73,000 jobs, which was already below expectations. But the real news was that when the BLS ran the numbers again, they realized that they had overestimated May's job creation by 125,000 and June's by 133,000. That means that more than 250,000 jobs that we thought existed never did. And that was just over 2 months.
So this is quite funny, because I know many people, if you watch my channel, are probably a bit more critical of the left wing. But what we have here is Trump, which appears to be speculation, alleged, however we want to word it, Trump trying to rig the statistics. And we don't know if he's being honest or not here. You just can't tell because everything's so fake now. What happened was there was the labor statistics that were announced on a monthly basis. And he says they're basically making the economy look worse than it is. And he got rid of this individual who is organizing the labor statistics of unemployment numbers and the labor reports, and says, oh, this is kind of a left-wing person. They're one of the Democrat supporters. We can't trust them. I'm going to get rid of them and hire my guy in. So it's like, well, he's saying, well, before they were rigging the statistics in favor of the Democrats and making the economy look good, now I'm in charge as Trump. The economy's looking bad based on these labor statistics. So I'm going to get rid of them and put in my stooge in, my Republican kind of guy, which we'll go into in a second. And I'll get rid of this person because they're not making the economy look good. So this is a real interesting thing where it's like, how can you trust anything now? Because it reminds me of a Stalin dictatorship, or Lenin, if you remember learning about communism and socialism in Russia. They would just get whoever was their friends into positions of leadership and rig all the statistics to make the economy look good. People feel like they have less and less money. And then it's like, oh no, let's get the guy to put out the news that, oh, the economy is doing well and we're building all these social programs and all these new infrastructure and people are getting hired. So you just don't believe your lying eyes. And there's a term I will put in the chat right now. I'm sure some of you will know about this and the documentary. Let me know if you know about this. This is quite interesting. Hypernormalization. Now, Hypernormalization is a documentary by Adam Curtis. Adam Curtis is the guy. If you want to understand how rigged the system is, how fake it is, he has many documentaries on this, whether it was the conflict that we've seen in the world in the Middle East and how, governments might be misleading us about how the world works. What he talks about in this specific, let me put it on the screen right now. Hypernormalization is like a 3-part documentary. He talks about how everything's becoming more and more fake and we all have to pretend it's real, like a socialist, communist Russia. It's like this fake statistics, the youth are getting dumber and dumber, but they make it easier for them to get top grades, like get an A or A star or B plus, or getting high grades is now easier than it used to be. So each generation's getting dumber. They've just made it easier to make it feel like, oh, everyone's getting smarter or things are improving, but worse. But you just have to pretend it's getting better because the statistics that are rigged make it look like it's getting better. There's the elites are banking on AI taking over a lot of jobs. On the flip side, if employees are replaced with AI, who will have the money to buy from these corporations? Yeah, and I think there's different theories there. Could they introduce UBI, universal basic income? I'm going to say something, and I have to word this so carefully, but I thought that post the whole 2020 situation, I think they were expecting, for whatever reason, a lot of people not to be here anymore, and that would be easier when they were rolling out AI. Now, they've rolled out AI, and they're going to continue rolling out, but I think they were thinking, oh, well, hopefully there would have been a massive depopulation event in the last few years before we rolled out AI, but now we have AI, and lots of people are still here. They haven't, unfortunately, in a way, they're actually still alive. And so you've got, in a sense, compared to what they want, they've got overpopulation and implementing AI at the same time, rather than depopulation and implementing AI. So you've got a bit of a conflict there. But I'm going to be careful around that topic, and I'm going to get back on with what we have on the screen right now. So here we have a case where, like I said, the job statistics are fake, and trusting them, you're kind of going to be blindsided, right? Companies and governments are looking to protect themselves, and they're not looking to protect you, right? So you've got to build real security for yourself and freedom by taking control of your future. Now, this is what I tried to do through my coaching program, which you've seen linked. So you got my coaching program there. There's a link in description. I think it's the pinned comment here. If you want to get started to help you build a career where you can see through the lies, what's in your career, whether it's also dealing with different dynamics at work. You're going to be lied to time and time again. Things are going to get worse and worse, and they're going to say, oh no, you're just imagining it, right? Things are actually better than you think they are. Now, let's get back to this story. So Trump was firing the labor chief statistic because they were saying it was undermining his credibility, right? And quick comment, I don't want to be too of the way people look, but there is a Phil, you might have heard about it. I'll put it in the chat. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. I'll put it in the chat 1 second. Now it's loading. Cool. So physiognomy, which I'm not pronouncing right probably, is a very interesting theory, and it's very big on right-wing Twitter in the last few years. And it's basically, you can at least judge someone's personality to a certain extent based on the way they look, right? And I don't necessarily mean their weight, whether they're overweight or not, but based on the way they look, it's an indication of their personality based on their face. If someone has a very serious, stern face all the time, it's probably because they are a serious person, or they're putting up a strong guarded layer. If someone has a face like this, its personality type is this. And if the kind of Karen or mother hen you see in the office, maybe the older kind of woman who's controlling type of mother-in-law type of personality, the busybody, gossiping, controlling, telling everyone what to do, and maybe clearly not having any self-control themselves. So that's the type of person that was in charge of this labor statistics. So it's just interesting to me, right? Because it comes across like that typical Democrat enforcing the politically correct opinion personality type. Now, I move on because this obviously is a career channel. We're talking about the economy here. I think this mother hen stereotype is quite common in the office, right? It's kind of a person who hovers over yourself as an employee, constant reminders, unsolicited life advice, and sometimes they can be a good person that can kind of helpful, like the mother personality and the maternal instinct in the workplace. But a lot of the times they can be a busybody involved in trying to be unnecessarily intervening. It's like the auntie who always wants to know you about your personal life, and you're like, oh, I don't really want to discuss it with you. These type of people can be micromanagers rather than letting you take control, own workload, and create resentment because they're trying to baby you even though you're an adult, and they can slow efficiency because they're always focused on nurturing and playing that motherly character, right? Now, I just want to focus on a few key details here. So the former Bureau of Labor Statistics BLS commissioner and nonpartisan economic groups have criticized Donald Trump shock firing of BLS Commissioner Erica McEnfarter July job reports. Trump, without evidence to back his claims, alleged that she was faking the employment numbers in the run-up to the election to make Kamala Harris look better than she was. And he says the recent data was rigged to make Republicans and Trump look bad. So if we just scroll down, what it says here is under the law, this is quite funny. I'm just clown world, right? I'll put this in the chat too. I'm sure many of you know this meme. This is where we are, like 2025, and you think they'd have at least statistics on how many people are employed, but you can't even rely on that. It's like you actually rely on the system to do. Under the law, disliking the data is not a qualifying reason to remove the commissioner from her 4-year appointment. Under our democracy, it's unacceptable to fire someone for publishing data collected in accordance with scientific standards, says the Association of Public Data Users. They want the Congress to respond immediately and investigate the factors that led to this person's removal and strongly urge BLS commissioners' continued service to be non-partisan, right? To maintain integrity. And I don't really believe the left or the right. I believe they'll just rig it in favor of whoever is in charge and whoever wants to look the best, right? And of course, when you have a government entity, BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, even in the West, even in the UK, any country, typically you're going to have left-leaning people in a lot of these government roles. So it makes sense they might want to make the right wing look bad or make Trump look bad. So what we can see here, right? He didn't like the statistics. He wanted someone else to fix the numbers. And I think the numbers will be rigged the other way. It'll make things look better than they actually are. And I think your standards can you rely on, right? You can't rely on the science anymore. You can't trust your doctors anymore. They might be lying, as people might suspect they've been lying over the last 5 years about a lot of things. Can you trust the science when it comes to the environment? Obviously, there's propaganda around what the weather should be and what's causing the change of the weather, which I can't even get into now. So it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's like the institution can be trusted. And that's another idea that I covered throughout my channel, which is IYI, intellectual yet idiot, which is a term that came up with from Nassim Taleb, which is, you know, all these intellectuals in the right position of power telling you how to act, how to behave, what to believe. But a lot of these are idiots because they don't have common sense and they're so focused on statistics versus reality. And of course, a lot of the educational class or academia or even these departments like this, they're run by, you know, figures who want to have certain opinions, positive or negative, to be put out there. So you can't really trust them. We're going to move on to the next, share this tab. There we go. Before I go through this, this is the new guy in charge, right? So this is the Trump stooge, and wrong with this guy. And you could probably listen to my channel and say, well, maybe I do prefer Trump over the alternatives, but I'm just another stooge. Let me go through the comments right now. So I agree 100%. Ugly people are evil. In all seriousness, we subconsciously know a lot about a person based on their looks, and 100% like that. I try not to be too judgmental because you could be going through a difficult time in their lives. They might gain weight or lose weight. They might appear happy or sad in general, depending on what their personal circumstances are at that point, but during that time period in their life. So sometimes it can be a bit difficult, but there is a general idea. Like if we look at this guy, the way he looks, he reminds me of the way JD Vance looks, or a lot of the other phrase out there. Let me put it in the chat. There's a phrase out there called Instagram face, and this is typically when women might be getting fillers and things like that in their face, lip filler or Botox, and they have a particular look, like the Kim Kardashian face, the Lauren Sanchez face, which I think is the wife of Bezos, but that's a particular personality type. And then private equity face, which I kind of up with, but people just been covering it recently, is whereby Emmanuel Macron, Justin Trudeau, some of these people who are in charge, they have a particular look about them. It's like they're establishment stooges, right? And that's what I see about this guy. I don't see a man of virtue or honor. It's just like he's the suit and tie guy who's going to parrot whatever the establishment wants, right? And this reminds me of JD Vance and people like that. So definitely think we can judge people on the way they look. Arvind right or left doesn't matter for us peasants. I think there's some truth to that. I think culturally there is some slight differences between them, and obviously the right might be more favorable to men in certain ways, but they're two sides of the same coin. And without getting too much into conspiracies and things, there's an argument to be said where they're basically both pushing in the same direction, right? Like the left might want CBDCs, and then the right want CBDCs through another way, through Elon Musk and, X as a payment platform. So it's like they're kind of very high level, two sides of the same coin. There's another term for this. I don't want to go too long into political philosophy, but there's a term called Hegelian dialectic, which is essentially like problem solution, where, you have two options, but they lead to the same outcome at the end. So this is EJ Antonio from the Heritage Foundation. Now, again, it's up to you what you want to look into, but I don't know if you know the Heritage Foundation. They're an extremely influential, powerful, right-wing like think tank. Yeah, a lot of the ideas and the research of what's going to hit with people, what's going to get a good reaction out of people, is coming from the Heritage Foundation. Now you have left-wing and right-wing think tanks, and there's certain names I don't mention here, but you might know someone with the last name Fuentes. I won't go into him in any more detail here because there's not allowed discussions around him too much here. But, they were targeting him and kept kicking him out. But a lot of the normie conservatives that parrot or whatever opinion Trump wants them to parrot, they actually, work in a list. They're very powerful. So essentially, this guy's been put in charge. So Heritage Foundation guy, EJ Antonio, is chosen on Monday by President Trump to lead the Bureau of Labor Statistics, to have these traditional monthly reports. So he's questioning the accuracy of the monthly reports. He's saying that it is a key economic indicator for investors and economists to rely for the health of the US labor market, right? And this is kind of going back to saying, right, so many things are dependent on, how depends on these statistics. Now, even if you're investing for your own basis, you're thinking, should I invest in the American stock market or invest in, let's just say, the Chinese stock market? You have to look at things. You have to look at statistics and numbers. What are the employment statistics? Do you want to invest, for example, in Tesla stock? Or do you want to invest in, local shopping malls? If you've got all these statistics saying, oh, the employment numbers are good, consumer confidence is high, people are buying a lot of products, and then all of a sudden the statistics are fake and you make the wrong investment, then obviously the numbers shouldn't be fake. So you don't have to, deal with these instances. Here he says, how on earth are business supposed to plan, or how are the Fed supposed to conduct monetary policy when we don't know how many jobs are being added or lost in the economy? But now, in my opinion, it's going to go from, like I say, being negative about job numbers to overly positive. So it's like, well, how can you really trust it either way? And that's the dynamic we're dealing with here. So, of course, there's more left-wing leaning outlet. So they're going to be anti-Trump. So they're going to present an alternative perspective, which is fine. And they go through, actually, he wants to manipulate the data his way. What is quite funny about this image is Trump is holding up some sign, and it shows the BLS is overestimating Biden's economy by nearly 1.5 million. So they're saying that, based on the he's saying essentially the statistics are the other way, right? And they're making Biden's economy look better than his economy. I think what you got to do in life, like I mentioned about me walking around earlier and sensing what's going on around me, what do I have from maybe friends or family or different contacts, what's actually going on in the economy. And the way I'd see it is lots of people are struggling a lot more than you think they would. Obviously people are not go out shouting about, being unemployed, or they wouldn't shout about if they had a successful investment. People are keeping a low profile. They're going to make things seem normal. There's probably many people on a daily basis dealing with unemployment, and they're not going to tell you, right? Like family members who just pretend like things are normal. Maybe they're working from home when they're actually searching for their next job. It says here, US jobs report Friday was surprisingly bad, sending the US equities, bond yields, and dollar sharply lower. The reason behind the labor market developments have been pretty easy to see. What remains murkier is how politics such as President Trump pressure campaign on the statistics result in the economy and market going down in the future. So again, like people are having a telling, how the market, because they can't really trust the statistics. And it goes on here, alongside immigration, The administration's efforts to increase government efficiency, which has emphasized cutting the number of government employees, also helps explain recent labor market trends. Government workers deciding to retire may be contributing to slowing labor supply. And certainly the job cuts influence total monthly payrolls, right? And what it's essentially saying here, there's many factors here that causing potentially higher unemployment, right? We can't just blame everything on AI. That's one thing I want you to pick up on is we can't say, oh, it's all AI or it's all the migrants taking up all the jobs. You know, we have a market, we have a general recession, we have many people who are, you know, deciding to opt out for, so looking at alternatives. There's many things going on here. It's not just AI, it's quite a murky image that we're dealing with. So let me know if you got any comments on this. What do you think about the government statistics? Do you think we can trust the numbers? Do you think they're all fake? If you go back and look at this this diagram, we can tell, right, what's actually going on in the economy right now. When we're dealing with this unclear job market, unclear reality of what's going on, if you want to kind of focus on your fill, power, pay, and freedom rather than getting caught up in politics and civil unrest like we see going on all over, like I can help your situation through career coaching. So Arvin says, you know, crazy, but it feels like ABA, always be applying. Yeah, I don't know if I made that phrase or other people I've seen use something similar. It makes sense to always be applying, right? And I think, you know, that can lead, but I would say this is my general guidance on that particular point. When you start a job, and it depends on how things are going, of course, you know, if you spend your year kind of settling in and doing a good job, don't burn yourself out and do too much. Obviously, you want to pass the probation period, you want to do an okay job. So you do that for the time being, for the first year. Second year, you really prove yourself. And then you do that in the second and the third year and see if they're going to give you a decent pay rise, a decent promotion. But if you're coming close to the third year and there's no real sign of we're going to look out for you and give you a decent pay rise, especially now inflation is high, you want to be getting decent pay rises, then it's time to just start job hopping. So I think that's good to look out for, but also look for instability. If you're seeing signs, which I've got coming up in several upcoming daily videos about layoffs, you know, management changes, layoffs departments, a general quiet workload, not much work coming your way, your work is being directed to other people, that could be a sign that a layoff is coming up for you, and then you want to be applying. So just look out for the signs. But yeah, I would say 3-year mark, you should be considering alternative opportunities to job hop.